Dirtle Magic! Hello and welcome back. You can follow our post on Twitter and Facebook at DirtleMTG to stay up to date on our latest videos and other posts, and you can join a more robust discussion about Casual Commander at our blog, thedicebag.blog. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this content to help the channel and the blog grow. Another way you can support the channel, though, is through our affiliate links in the description below. If you're looking for single sealed product or gaming accessories to protect all of that glory, please consider clicking the links in the description. Now, grab some spells, it's time to dirtle. Hello and welcome back. Today we embrace our destiny with Klothys, the god of destiny. Standing in the way of fate, however, are Muldrotha and Twain. Oh, and Sythis for like 5 seconds. I guess Karametra had an urgent task for her or something. Anyway, Muldrotha wins the die roll, and they drop a Jungle Hall into play, gaining 1 life. Twain drops a Plains. I drop a Notvold Slumber Mound and pass my turn. The Harvest Hand plays a Plains, then they cast a land tax. Golgari Guildgate creaks open for the Muldrotha player. Twain plays an island, and then they cast their commander. My turn brings in Inferno Titan. I play a mountain and cast a Firebrand Archer. To Sythis' turn, and the land tax triggers. They grab 2 forests from their deck. They then play a forest and cast their commander. Muldrotha's turn has them putting an island into play. Pernicious Deed then enters the battlefield, and the Harvest Hand abruptly quits the game. There's been a lot of that trying to record this commander, unfortunately. Over to Twain, and a plane comes into play. Oath of Lieges hits the stack, and I'm fine with a little more ramp. My turn begins with the Oath trigger, and I retrieve a forest. I cast my commander. Twain is activated in response. I decide not to draw, and I pass the turn. I neglect my land drop for the turn, so I can grab more lands from my deck later with more Oath triggers. Muldrotha drops a Reliquary Tower into play, and then casts Cultivate. An island comes into play tapped. Back to Twain, and the Oath grants them an island. A Plains is next into play, followed by Commander's Sphere. Kami of the Crescent Moon then comes down, increasing everyone's card draw. Twain is activated at the end step, and I decline the card draw again. To my turn, and I grab a mountain and draw Pulveros, God of the Forge, and a Blasphemous Act. I drop a Rockfall Veil, and cast the God of the Forge. Muldrotha puts a command tower on the table for their turn. Merfolk Looter then enters the battlefield, and they pass afterward. Twain's turn comes back around, and they grab an island from the deck. After some consideration, the Twain player casts Fractured Identity on Pulveros. I didn't even get a single trigger. We go back and forth, talking about the play civilly, but I worry about the potential with Muldrotha. They then cast Folio of Fancies. Twain is activated again, and again I decline the card draw. Back to my turn, and I grab a forest with the Oath. I draw Farseek and Bond of Flourishing. I exile the Fractured Identity, we don't need any more of those shenanigans, and my opponents take 2 and I gain 2. I then cast a Kessig Flame Breather and follow that up with Bond of Flourishing. Both the Firebrand and the Flame Breather trigger, dealing 2 total damage to my opponents. With the Bond, I get a Brimstone Vandal, trying to increase my burn points. I then cast Farseek, dealing another bout of damage to my opponents, and grab a Highland Forest. I pass the turn. Muldrotha gets an Oath trigger that works this time, and they grab a forest. Another forest comes into play, and a Vampiric Tutor hits the stack. Merfolk Looter is activated, and they draw and discard. Panharmonicon comes into play, followed by Phyrexian Metamorph, which becomes another Harmonicon, and things are looking a bit dangerous in my opinion. It hops on over to Twain, and the Oath grabs a Plains for them. Twain is activated, and I draw a card this time and gain 1 life. It's a mountain. Seagate Restoration hits the stack, drawing the Twain player 8 cards. Solring comes down, then Helm of Awakening. Scalding Tarn hits the field, gets cracked, and a Tundra drops into play. They're not done yet, and an Indentured Djinn comes into play. When it enters, each opponent of Twain may draw up to 3 cards, and I accept 2. Muldrotha draws 3. Scavenger Grounds and Terror of the Peaks are the cards I get to draw, and each of Twain's opponents take 2 from the Pulveros trigger. To my turn, and another Oath land drops into play, which is a mountain. At this point, I'm willing to play into the Pernicious Deed with all of the card draw and cost reduction. First, Klothys exiles Muldrotha's Forest for some extra red mana. I then cast Terror of the Peaks, following up with a Brimstone Vandal. Terror triggers, and I deal 2 damage to the Muldrotha player. Secure Tribe Elders next, and I deal 1 damage to the Twain player. I drop a mountain and cast Tectonic Giant, dealing 3 damage to the Muldrotha player. To combat, and I swing Klothys herself into the Twain player, and the Firebrand and the Flame Breather into Muldrotha. Damage is good all around, and Muldrotha ends the turn at 23 and Twain at 30. To Muldrotha, and they oath out a swamp. Wood Elves hits the field, and it triggers 3 times, along with their Pulveros. Twain and I take 6 damage, and Muldrotha gains 3 lands, all basic farce. A tropical island comes into play, and so does Azusa, Lost but Seeking. Pulveros deals 6 more damage to Twain and I. Parasitic Implant then enchants my commander. Twain's turn begins with their Oath trigger, and they get an island. Twain gets another activation, and I draw a Valakut Exploration. Orzhov Advocates enters the battlefield, and their Pulveros triggers, dealing 2 to Muldrotha and I. Generous Gift is then cast against the Terror of the Peaks, and I get an Elephant token to replace it. Temple Bell then comes down. Mystic Sanctuary comes into play afterward, returning Seagate Restoration to Twain's top of deck. Forced Fruition is then cast, and I'm wary of casting too many more cards and drawing myself out of the game. Temple Bell is activated, and I gain a Harsh Mentor. Garpo, I can never pronounce that word, comes down. And Misty Rainforest comes into play. It is immediately cracked, and Island enters. Words of Wisdom then draws Twain 2 cards, and their opponents each 1 card, and the spells finally cease. My turn lets me get another Oath land, and I grab a mountain. I draw another mountain and Arc Bond, and with Klothys' trigger, I exile the Vampiric Tutor, dealing 2 to each opponent and gaining 2. I cast Valakut Exploration, dealing 2 more damage to each other player, and drawing 7 cards. I play my lands for the turn, exiling a mountain and Emberwald Captain with the Valakut Exploration. I move to combat, intent on swinging into the Muldrotha player, but they respond at the beginning of combat step with a Merfolk Looter activation, followed by a Pernicious Deed activation. X equals 6 for this. In response, I sacrifice the Secure Tribe Elder for a Forest, triggering Exploration again and exiling a Guardian Project. The board gets wiped of just about everything except lands and gods. In the second main, I cast Emberwald Captain from exile and become the Monarch. I then cast Inferno Titan and deal 3 damage to the Muldrotha player. I pass, and the life totals stand at 35 for me, 15 for Muldrotha, and 11 for Twain. Moving to the end step, I draw Harmonize with the Monarchy, but then I have to discard a bunch. I discard Burning Tree Shaman, Beast Whisperer, Quakebringer, 2 Mountains, Timeless Witness, 3 Visits, and Harmonize. Muldrotha's turn has their commander enter the battlefield, dealing 2 with the Pulveros. Lightning Greaves is cast, and once on the field, is equipped to Muldrotha to protect it. Pernicious Deed comes back into play from the graveyard, and the player passes the turn. Twain's turn starts with recurring all enchantments and artifacts from graveyards with Open the Vaults. I get back only Valakut Exploration, but Muldrotha gets back Panharmonicon, Parasitic Implant, Renegade Map, and Phyrexian Metamorph. Metamorph hits the field, becomes a copy of Inferno Titan, and promptly burns mine out of existence. Their Pulveros also triggers, dealing 4 damage to their opponents. Quinn gets back a Folio of Fancies, Soul Ring, Helm of Awakening, Temple Bell, Forceful Fruition, and the Gurapur word I can't pronounce. Queen's turn rolls on over, and they cast a Happily Ever After, and each of us gain 5 life. It's at this point that I lament about all I have lost to try to take out the Muldrotha player, only for them to gain 5 more life and stay away from death. Tidal Barracuda is then cast, and their Pulveros triggers for 2 damage. Queen comes back from the command zone, and Pulveros triggers again. Temple Bell is activated, and I gain a Shamanic Revelation. Anvil of Bogarden hits the field, further increasing the card draw for the table. My turn begins with an Oath trigger, and I retrieve a Forest. Valakut Exploration triggers, and I exile Gratuitous Violence. Anvil then triggers, and I draw Cindervines and Shadowspear, and discard Harmonize. Klothys triggers, and I exile the Parasitic Implant, dealing 2 to my opponents and gaining 2. I then cast Combustible Gearhulk, triggering Forced Fruition, and having Muldrotha choose. They choose for me to draw the cards. I play a Cinderglade and a Rootbound Crag, triggering Valakut twice more and exiling 2 more cards. I move to combat, and Muldrotha flashes in a Fleshbag Marauder, which has flash because of the Barracuda. Forced Fruition triggers, and Fleshbag Marauder comes into play. Triggers hit the stack, and I respond with a flashed-in Blasphemous Act, holding priority to cast Arcbound on the Gearhulk. Fruition triggers twice, and Muldrotha responds with Cancel against the Arcbond. I wait for it to get countered, and then cast Skullwinder at instant speed, retrieving the Arcbond from the graveyard and letting Twain get a card back as well. Klothys becomes active because of the Skullwinder entering the battlefield, and I recast the Arcbond, targeting the Skullwinder. Twain responds with Words of Wisdom, drawing each of their opponents a card and themselves too. Arcbond resolves, and I draw 21 more cards, and then Blasphemous Act finally goes off. The board gets wiped of its creatures, and the Arcbonded Skullwinder triggers, and Twain goes down, and Muldrotha goes down to 1. The ability from Volkwood Exploration could take out Muldrotha, but at this point not wanting to take any more chances, I cast Chandra, Torch of Defiance, and activate her first ability. I decide not to cast the card, and deal 2 to each of my remaining opponents, which is only Muldrotha, and I gain victory. Good game to my opponents. Whew, that was a lot of stuff that game. I'm glad it went the way it did, and not only because I ended up winning. Trying to play the Klothys deck and getting a recording done has been a tough endeavor, with the number of players quitting the game this week. I don't know what's up with that. While Sythis was hard countered early with that Pernicious Deed, that doesn't necessarily mean one should give up if something counters you. Fortunately or unfortunately, you can quit and go to another game on Magic Online if your plans don't pan out. It's the nature of the beast. In either case, I'll see you next time for some more casual Commander gameplay here on Dirtle Magic. Until then, stay safe out there.